Hey y'all, thanks for joining me again this week. We're getting set to go green, Lone Star Sports Car Series at Zolder. Peterson on pole again this race and off to another great start. Trying to mirror what he did a couple weeks ago. Oh, JP. Not the only one who had problems in that turn. So coming into the race this week, we have this race and then one more at Monza in 2 weeks. The big focus for me was a 15-point lead coming in here, and I am going to miss the final race of the season at Monza. So I really wanted to maximize my finish here to try to put the championship out of reach for Larry. And you'll see me make moves like that. I was driving a lot more aggressively this race than I have all season long. I definitely felt the pressure of trying to win my first Lone Star Sports Car Championship. I even went with a setup that was quite a bit freer than what I normally run. I usually run a little more conservative. The setup I was using had a lot more oversteer to it. Not quite as a stable setup as what I usually run. And that was a product of that extra oversteer. When I went to go make that chicane right there, the car just hooked left. The rear end started coming around. It almost felt like I had locked the rears up, which isn't the case. I am running quite a bit of ABS in this car. As a matter of fact, the ABS is maxed out on this setup. So I'm almost certain that the rears didn't lock up, but that's almost what it felt like. It was a lot of oversteer on turn in, and that was just due to the way the car was set up. And I was surprised I actually saved it. I thought for sure I was heading straight into the wall. But that let Mike and Larry through, and Ryan Ritchie right behind me there, keeping it close. And there you see another bobble from me, and that was my all race long. You'll see stuff like that, little twitches and bobbles here and there. Not sure what happened to Billy. Billy Smith. He ran the quickest time in practice, didn't qual and missed the grid, and then came out a few laps down here, 3 laps down now. Sometimes real life, something comes up and you miss the grid, and that's unfortunate, but it happens. So now at this point in the race, I have decided I've lost my bonus points for incident free, which I really, really wanted. But I think at this point now in the race, I'm trying to decide how am I going to make this up. I still have a shot at 2 bonus points if I can keep it at 3 incidents or fewer. And Larry hasn't pulling that far ahead of me yet. Still within a second of him. Yeah, there's Billy. I almost considered at this point if he gave us a 3-lap head start and was going to come back and unlap himself 3 times. He was that quick. Oh, that's not going to help him. So that may have been what happened to him then. So I was debating now what my strategy should be, what to do. And then Larry decided to help me out, and he asked me if I was fuel mapping. So right around this point in the race, I decided, you know what? Let's go down to the number 1 on the fuel map. I know I've talked about it before on the Mercedes. You have 3 map settings. 3 is full power, 2 is normal power, and 1 is fuel save mode. So I went all the way down to 1 and decided to see what my lap time was. And I noticed it wasn't that quick, but at the same time wasn't too far off. And if I could keep Larry within a couple seconds of me, I may be able to make up ground on him in the pit stop and leapfrog him. I had to be careful though. Ryan's still pretty close behind me, a few seconds back. I didn't want to lose so much ground to give him a chance to get around me too. Because I really, really wanted those points. So So really right here hoping that Larry stays close to Mike and then I stay close to the back of Larry and maybe even pull off a 2-for-1, get them both on the stop. But right now that's still 15-20 minutes away, so I just need to hammer out some lap times and keep these guys close. Another one of those tracks with some high curbs. You notice the damage on the front ends and side skirts and such of a lot of cars out there from hopping over those curbs. These are a little tricky too. Some of the curbs, if you hit them just right, they can actually help you rotate around some of these chicanes. But if you get just a little too much of them, they'll like you saw me earlier, they'll lift the car up completely and then you lose all control. The one right here, the second one right there, if you can clip your right rear tire on it like that, it can help you rotate the rear end around. And you'll see how it close up nicely right on the back of Larry here. But you don't want to hit it so hard that it sends the whole rear end in the air, because then you're just along for the ride. But then there's others like you see that turn back there. I don't know what you would call those. Those aren't the sausage style curves. Those are like, and they're not the sawtooth ones either. They're like blocks, like concrete blocks or something. And you hit those, and all it does is just damage the car and send you flying. Those you want to stay away from. The little red box on my dash says map, and then that 1, that tells you I'm on fuel map 1 right there. The green box is ABS, 11 is max, 12 is off, and then the blue box is TC, that's traction control, and I have that at 7. I started TC at 5, but again, with this setup, it just felt really free. I added a little more. Usually I'll actually run with it off at the beginning of the race. I'll run TC off. But that, oh, there's Ryan showing you if you get too much of those curbs. Running TC off here for me with this setup was asking for disaster. It shows if it shows an in-car camera, the way you can tell if TC's on or off, to the left of that HUD on the dash, there's a red light. When TC is off, that red light is illuminated. Now, one thing that I did notice here on my own dashboard, on my rig and on my telemetry, I was getting overheating water temp warning. Water temp was pushing close, I think, to 240 almost at a few points in the race. And I don't know if that was due to some front end damage, some slight damage on the front end, and then running so close to Larry. but it's not very often I see that in this car. So I was a little worried, but at the same time, like I told Larry in TeamSpeak, at this point in the race, the engine blows, it blows. I'm just running it. I've already set my strategy at this point. I'm committed to it. No point in backing off even more, trying to cool it. So I don't know how hot this engine will go before blowing. I've never blown a Mercedes engine. It's something that you practice in the Oval Series. When we ran the trucks on the ovals in the league, on the super speedways, that was actually something I would practice. I'd get behind someone and I would just run right behind them until the engine overheated and blew, and I would keep my eye on the oil and water temps and see at what point I could push it to. And it's not something you come across really in the road racing in the GT3 series. So that's something I know. So I just kind of decided to run the car, run it, and if it overheated, it overheated. Larry was asking me if I was running fuel map settings, if I lowered the map. I told him he's going to have to wait till the broadcast. Last thing I wanted to do was tell him that I was running similar lap times to him on a lowered fuel map. I didn't want him to push even harder. through that turn back there, Mike was asking during the race, he kept missing shifts. And with the lower speeds through there, it feels like you want to use first gear. But I had told him at some point here in the race when he was saying something about missing shifts through there, there's something with the gearbox, and it's not just this car. I noticed it when we ran the roof, Porsche GT3 knockoff that we used to run. I noticed it in that car too. If you were in first and accelerating out of that turn and you would click to go to second, you would keep clicking, and sometimes it'd take a few tries for the car to go to second. Sometimes you even needed to lift. And it was doing it in this car too, so I told Mike I just quit using first gear through there. And second seemed to be doing a pretty good job. Oh, that was almost all four wheels. But he keeps it going. JP making his pit stop. Getting close to that time. So Larry's decided to make his stop right now too. So Larry, a 14.4 second stop. So that's important because now that Larry's made his stop, I've taken my fuel map back up to 3, and now I'm just trying to run some quick lap. And actually, I think at this point I had another 3 or 4 laps before I needed to stop. So I was planning on just running that fuel map 3, but you see I came flying in. You saw JP in front of me there. I decided that the last thing I wanted was to wait another lap or 2 and be closed up on the back of JP and then have to brake there. You saw how fast I came into that pit road entry. I didn't want a car in front of me and slowing me down there because I'm really trying to make up as much ground on Larry as possible, so I decided to go ahead and pit early with him. This is the lap after Larry's pitted. And if we stay on board, you're going to notice something here. Oh, a little too far forward. So, I was trying to make up ground on Larry, and then I go and make a mistake on pit road, so now we'll have to see what my stop comes out as. A 12.7. So Larry was a 14.4, I was a 12.7, and that was just due to putting in less fuel. I normally put an extra lap or even a little more of fuel in. I cut all of that out. I really put in the bare minimum. I was really planning on stretching this. And here comes Peterson in out of the lead to make his stop. And I think with the gap he has, if Mike doesn't pit, Mike will actually take the lead. He doesn't have enough time. But here it is. I've come out in front of Larry, and that's what I wanted. I could have had a bigger gap if I hadn't messed up there, but just enough. And there you saw a mistake over that curb again. So now, knowing I really cut the fuel close, I need to save some actually. So now I'm in this predicament of wanting to hold Larry off while also saving fuel. So I was kind of going back and forth depending on the lap and where Larry was in the section of track. At some points I would go to full power, others I would cut it back. But this is what I wanted right here. Since I'm not getting my 5 bonus points, I'm still shooting for those 2 bonus points for having 3 incidents or fewer. Still on track for that. I think I only have 2 incidents at this point in the race. So I still get 1 more if I need it. And I'm ahead of Larry, so where we run right now, I believe, would maintain the 15 points between us. And Peterson made his stop. He was a 14.5, so just a 10th slower than Larry. These fuel strategy races and having to watch after incidents, not my favorite thing to have to do. I'd rather just race, but that is the strategy that this series, this is what I need to do to try and win the championship. And if that's what I have to do, then it's not as much fun as just going flat out all the time. But it's that little extra, I don't know, I guess it makes it fun. Oh, JP having trouble through that turn again. I kept it out of the wall. I know that's definitely not something Larry doesn't like. I know he's voiced it before. He doesn't like having to race while watching after incidents. He definitely doesn't like fuel strategy races. He'd rather just run as fast as he can and take the fuel he needs on the pit stop. So Mike's made his stop and he comes out behind us. Mike's stop was an 18.3. So he's fired his pit crew twice now. He's on his 3rd pit crew. They've done a lot better job. He's gone from 50-second stops down to just 4 seconds off of us. Now it's just fine-tuning how much fuel he's taking. Probably just taking an extra couple gallons. So here I'm on map 1, and Larry, I don't get a good exit on that turn. Larry's looking on the outside, so I defended the inside, and I could not make that turn, and it launched me in the air going over those curbs. So Larry gets by. And Mike's gonna get by me. And now I'm thinking, oh, I've just lost this championship. So it was right around here, I decided to go back to map 3 and just go. And yeah, whatever happens, happens. Interestingly enough, and then there Mike loses it and gifts that spot right back to me. So now it's almost like, okay, well, now I'm right back behind Larry, 7 seconds or so. Maybe I have a shot at this. So once again, I'm back looking to see how much fuel do I need to save. You know, it's back to running that strategy again. I think at this point I was half a lap short, so I'm still a ways behind Larry, so I'm not thinking I'm going to be able to catch him. So I decided to go ahead and run the number 1 fuel map and try to save that half a lap of fuel that I need, while keeping an eye on Michael Lane to see where he's at, trying to keep him around 4 or 5 seconds behind me. And then this was the point where Larry realized he was at 0 incidents, so he kind of started backing off a little bit and trying to make sure he could maintain that incident-free all the way to the end to put as many points on me as he could. And it was, interesting enough, I was making this point earlier, when I lost that second place to Larry, flying through the air, going off into the grass, I actually didn't get an incident for that. I didn't cross the threshold for out of control. It had been close though, and I got the car slowed down enough through the grass that it didn't give me an off track. If you go through the grass or anywhere off the track under 30 miles an hour, it doesn't count as an off track. So I was able to keep the car slow enough to keep from getting that. So I'm still sitting on 2 incidents, and I'm behind Larry. So this is things went from great at the beginning of the race to not so great to better, then to worse, and then now we're kind of back to, okay, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. There's still a shot. JP running wide and lifting to let me by here. Appreciate that. Alright, so here I've gone back to full power. I've decided that I saved that fuel that I needed to, and now let's just run this thing to the end. I'm actually trying to put a little bit of pressure on Larry. Just close that gap up just a little. And now that I'm back into full power mode, let's see if I can close it up even more. Sector 1, 1/3 a second, 0.3 I guess. 0.3 quicker. Sector 2 is 0.2 quicker, so I already made up half a second. Another 0.2. So now I'm in TeamSpeak letting Larry know, hey, I'm catching you. Just trying to put a little pressure on him. I know he's trying to run incident free now at this point. Another 0.2. In Sector 4 there. And well, over a second quicker that lap. A second quicker than Larry there. So I'm making sure he knows that. Really, with 4 to go, 5 minutes left, make sure he knows that I'm behind him and I'm closing it up. Another 0.7 I gained on him that lap. But I gotta be careful because I got Michael Lane behind me and he's actually running the quickest laps right now. He's in the 1:28s. Well, Ryan Ritchie was, well, there's a 1:39. Looked like he was a 1:28 the lap before. Must have had a problem out there somewhere. So 4.5 seconds behind Larry now, coming to 2 to go. 2.5 minutes. seconds. So as we run, Ryan Ritchie, who we saw in the great car just a few moments ago, he's actually locked up the AM Championship, so congrats to him. And where we run, Larry has reduced it from a 15-point deficit to a 10-point deficit. And there's Ryan, there's your AM Championship. JP in the green Ferrari is sitting second as we run now, 5 points ahead of Clint. So that's still, second place is still open up for the final race of the season at Monza. Should be coming to the white flag right here. So again, as we run on track, Larry, 10-point deficit going into Monza, knowing I won't be there. He's gonna drop a 28-point race. That would be his drop should he score more than 28 points. He'll drop that 28-point race and replace it with whatever he gets at Monza. Again, if Monza is more than 28 points. Plus he has a 10-point deficit. Which would be 38 points is what he needs to score to tie. But the tiebreaker would be incident points, and I've got a lot fewer than him this season. I've only gotten 2 in this race. And that's all I've gotten all season long. So coming to the finish, Peterson's already won, Larry's second, I got P3, Michael Lane P4, and then Ryan P5. There's JP coming off the final turn. He'll finish P6. So final race of the season at Monza in 2 weeks. Larry needs 39 points to beat me, which means an incident-free win.